Most people, when they decide to eat healthier, reach for fruit. It seems obvious, natural, colorful, sweet without guilt. Fruit feels like the safe choice, the wholesome alternative to everything processed and artificial in the modern diet. And for most of human history, that instinct was exactly right. But here is something your doctor may never have taken the time to sit down and explain to you. After 60, the body's relationship with fruit becomes more complicated. The same natural sugars that a healthy 30-year-old metabolizes without issue can, in a 65-year-old body, drive blood sugar instability, amplify inflammation, and accelerate the exact cellular aging process you're trying to avoid. And certain fruits, ones that appear on every nutritionist's healthy eating list, can interact with common medications in ways that range from inconvenient to genuinely dangerous. None of this means fruit is your enemy, far from it. Some of the most powerful anti-aging foods on the planet are fruits, and they belong in your diet every single day. But not all fruits are equal for the body you're living in right now, at this particular stage of life. And knowing the difference could matter more than you realize. I'm Dr. Naira Stein, a seniors health and wellness consultant, and if questions about nutrition, aging, and how to make your body work better in the years ahead are on your mind, I want you to know you're in exactly the right place. Stay with me today because we're going to go through 5 fruits that deserve a second look for anyone over 60, and 5 that research consistently shows are genuinely extraordinary for the aging body. Let's start by understanding why your body is different now, and why that changes the conversation about food. Why fruit hits differently after 60. To understand why certain fruits become problematic after 60, while others become more valuable, we need to look honestly at what changes in the body during this stage of life, because the biology is real, and it's specific. The first and most significant shift is in metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility is the body's ability to shift smoothly between burning glucose and burning fat for energy, and to regulate blood sugar efficiently after meals. In your 20s and 30s, this system tends to be robust. Insulin, the hormone responsible for shuttling glucose from the bloodstream into cells, works quickly and sensitively. Blood sugar spikes after meals, then comes back down within a predictable, healthy window. After 60, insulin sensitivity typically declines, a natural consequence of aging that is accelerated by decades of high-sugar dietary patterns, reduced physical activity, and the loss of metabolically active muscle tissue. What this means practically is that a portion of fruit that caused a modest, manageable blood sugar rise in a younger person can trigger a significantly larger spike in an older one. And the consequences of repeated, excessive blood sugar spikes are not abstract. Glycation, the process by which glucose molecules attach to proteins throughout the body and create damaging advanced glycation end products, accelerates. Inflammation rises. The already vulnerable microvasculature of the kidneys, eyes, and nerves comes under increased stress. The second major shift is in kidney filtration capacity. Kidney function naturally declines with age. Most adults lose roughly 1% of filtration capacity per year after 40, and this rate often accelerates with conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, or a history of certain medications. For the kidneys, the primary concern with certain fruits is not sugar, it's potassium and oxalate, minerals that healthy kidneys clear effortlessly, but aging or compromised kidneys struggle to manage. When these minerals accumulate, the consequences can range from uncomfortable to cardiac. The third shift is pharmacological. By 60, the majority of adults in developed countries are taking at least one regular prescription medication. Many are taking 3, 4, or 5, and a surprisingly large number of fruits, particularly those rich in certain flavonoids and furanocoumarins, can interfere with the liver enzymes responsible for metabolizing drugs. The result? medications reach higher concentrations in the bloodstream than intended, side effects amplify, and the clinical picture becomes harder to manage. These three shifts, metabolic, renal, and pharmacological, don't make fruit dangerous, but they do make fruit selection a matter worth thinking through carefully. With that foundation in place, let's look at the 5 fruits that deserve the most caution. 5 fruits to approach with caution after 60. Fruit. Number 1, grapefruit, the medication disruptor. Grapefruit is one of the most nutritionally respectable fruits in existence. It's rich in vitamin C, low in calories, high in fiber, and loaded with antioxidant compounds. For a healthy adult with no medication dependencies, it's a genuinely excellent food. But grapefruit carries a biochemical peculiarity that makes it uniquely problematic for the majority of older adults. And it has nothing to do with sugar or calories. It has to do with a group of compounds called furanocoumarins, which are present in the flesh, juice, and peel of grapefruit and a handful of closely related citrus fruits. Furanocoumarins permanently inhibit an enzyme in the small intestine called CYP3A4. This enzyme is responsible for metabolizing a remarkably broad range of medications: statins used to manage cholesterol, calcium channel blockers used for blood pressure and heart rhythm, certain immunosuppressants, some anti-anxiety medications, specific antibiotics, and several anti-cancer drugs. When CYP3A4 is inhibited, drugs that would normally be broken down and cleared pass through the intestinal wall in far greater concentrations than intended, dramatically amplifying their effect in the body. This isn't a mild interaction that nudges medication levels slightly. In documented cases, grapefruit has increased drug concentrations in the bloodstream by 2, 5, even 13 times their intended levels. The consequences range from muscle breakdown in statin users to dangerous drops in blood pressure to cardiac arrhythmias. And because furanocoumarins permanently deactivate the enzyme, rather than temporarily inhibiting it, the interaction is not resolved by simply timing grapefruit consumption away from medication. The effect persists for 24 to 72 hours after a single serving. If you are taking any regular prescription medication and you enjoy grapefruit, please have an explicit conversation with your prescribing physician or pharmacist about whether it is safe for you specifically. This is not a theoretical caution. It is a documented clinical risk that affects a significant percentage of older adults. Fruit number 2, overripe bananas, when a staple becomes a sugar spike. Bananas are one of the most universally consumed fruits on earth, familiar, affordable, convenient, and genuinely nutritious in the right form. They're an excellent source of potassium, magnesium, vitamin B6, and resistant starch. For many older adults, they've been a daily staple for decades. The issue isn't bananas as a category. The issue is ripeness, and what ripeness does to the glycemic profile of this particular fruit. A firm, slightly green banana is a genuinely low glycemic food. Its starch exists largely in a resistant form, meaning it passes through the small intestine largely undigested, reaching the colon where it feeds beneficial gut bacteria, supports bowel regularity, and contributes to stable blood sugar. The glycemic index of an underripe banana sits around 30 to 40, well within a range that most older adults can handle without significant blood sugar disruption. As a banana ripens and those characteristic brown spots develop, something fundamental changes chemically. The resistant starch converts almost entirely into simple sugars, primarily glucose, fructose, and sucrose. The glycemic index of a fully ripe, heavily speckled banana can climb to 65 or higher. For a body with declining insulin sensitivity, this is a meaningfully different food. The same fruit, at a different stage of its natural life cycle, can produce blood sugar responses that are 2 to 3 times more pronounced than its less ripe counterpart. The practical guidance here is not to eliminate bananas. It's to pay attention to when you eat them. A firm banana, ideally paired with a protein source, a spoonful of nut butter, some Greek yogurt, blunts the glycemic response further and preserves the genuinely excellent nutritional profile this fruit offers. Overripe bananas used in baking, combined with refined flour and added sugar, are a different matter entirely, functionally closer to a dessert than a health food. For those managing kidney disease or monitored potassium levels, the potassium content of even a moderate-sized banana, roughly 420 milligrams, warrants discussion with your physician before making this a daily habit. Fruit number 3, canned fruit in syrup, the sugar delivery system dressed as produce. This entry on the list isn't about a specific fruit. It's about a form, and a form that has become so normalized in many households that it's no longer recognized as the dietary concern it genuinely is. Canned fruit in heavy or light syrup is, at its core, a vehicle for added sugar dressed in the nutritional reputation of real fruit. The syrup added during canning, whether called heavy syrup, light syrup, or even fruit juice concentrate, contributes a significant additional sugar load to whatever natural sugars the fruit already contains. A single serving of peaches in heavy syrup can deliver as much sugar as a portion of candy, with the fiber content diminished by the heat processing required for canning. The canning process itself creates further nutritional compromise. Water-soluble vitamins, particularly vitamin C and folate, are highly sensitive to the high temperatures of industrial canning. By the time the fruit reaches your bowl, a significant portion of its original micronutrient value has been destroyed. What remains is primarily the fruit's natural sugar, now joined by additional syrup sugars, along with some minerals and modest fiber. There is also the matter of the container itself. Many canned goods, including canned fruit, have historically been lined with bisphenol A, BPA, an industrial chemical with known endocrine-disrupting properties. While many manufacturers have moved away from BPA liners in response to consumer and regulatory pressure, BPA-free alternatives often contain structurally similar compounds whose long-term safety profiles are still being studied. For older adults, whose hormonal and metabolic systems are already navigating natural age-related changes, unnecessary endocrine disruption from food packaging is worth avoiding when alternatives are accessible. The straightforward alternative is whole fresh fruit, frozen fruit, an excellent option that preserves nutritional value exceptionally well, or, when canned is the only option, fruit packed in its own juice with no added syrup, rinsed before eating to further reduce sugar content. Fruit number 4, dried fruit in large portions, concentrated sweetness with a concentrated cost. Dried fruit, raisins, dates, dried apricots, dried cranberries, prunes, occupies an interesting position in the nutrition conversation. It is undeniably a whole food. It provides fiber, minerals, and polyphenols in meaningful amounts. Prunes in particular have a well-documented evidence base for supporting bone density and bowel regularity, two concerns of significant practical relevance for adults over 60. The problem is portion size and what dehydration does to the density of natural sugars. When fruit is dried, its water content, which accounts for 80 to 90% of a fresh fruit's volume, is removed. What remains is essentially a concentrated form of everything the original fruit contained. Fiber, yes, but also sugar. A small handful of raisins contains roughly the same amount of sugar as a full bunch of grapes, in a fraction of the volume that would register as filling to the stomach. The portion control cues that fresh fruit naturally provides, its weight, its water content, its physical bulk, are largely absent in dried form. This matters enormously for blood sugar management in older adults. It is genuinely easy to consume 2, 3, or 4 portions of sugar in what feels like a modest snack. And because many commercial dried fruits, particularly cranberries, blueberries, and cherries sold as healthy snacks, have added sugar included in the drying process, the actual sugar content can be even higher than the natural baseline. Dried fruit also concentrates potassium. A small cup of dried apricots can deliver over 1,500 milligrams of potassium, more than 3 times the amount in a fresh apricot. For older adults managing kidney function or taking potassium-affecting medications, this concentration can push mineral levels outside safe ranges quickly and without obvious warning. None of this disqualifies dried fruit from the diet, but it does argue strongly for treating it as a concentrated ingredient, used in small quantities as a flavor element, rather than as a snack consumed freely. Fruit number 5. High-sugar tropical fruits in excess, when natural means naturally high. Mangoes, lychees, papayas, and their tropical counterparts are genuinely wonderful fruits, fragrant, flavorful, culturally significant, and genuinely nutritious. Mangoes in particular are exceptional sources of vitamin C, folate, and beta-carotene. There is nothing inherently harmful about these fruits. The concern is glycemic load and quantity. Many tropical fruits carry significantly higher natural sugar concentrations than the temperate fruits most nutritional guidelines were calibrated around. A medium-sized mango contains roughly 45 grams of sugar, close to the total daily sugar limit recommended by the World Health Organization for adults. A cup of lychees provides approximately 29 grams. For a 65-year-old with declining insulin sensitivity, consuming a large portion of high-sugar tropical fruit, particularly in the absence of fiber-rich, protein-containing foods that would blunt absorption, can produce a blood sugar response that promotes exactly the glycation, inflammation, and vascular stress we are trying to avoid. The issue is not the mango. The issue is the plate context and the portion. A few slices of mango as part of a balanced meal, alongside protein, healthy fat, and leafy vegetables, produces a very different metabolic response than a large bowl of mixed tropical fruits consumed on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, as has become popular in certain health-conscious circles. For older adults managing blood sugar, the guidance is straightforward. Enjoy these fruits in modest portions, within meals rather than as isolated snacks, and monitor how your body responds. They are not forbidden, but they are not consequence-free in quantity. 5 fruits that actively support aging well after 60. Fruit. Number 1. Blueberries, the brain's most loyal ally. If there is one fruit that the science of aging returns to again and again in study after study across population after population, it is the humble blueberry. And the consistency of the evidence is remarkable. Blueberries are one of the richest dietary sources of anthocyanins, the pigment compounds responsible for their deep blue-purple color, and, far more importantly, for a cascade of biological effects that researchers have spent decades trying to fully characterize. What is already clear is this. Anthocyanins cross the blood-brain barrier, where they reduce oxidative stress in neural tissue, dampen neuroinflammation, and appear to support the neuroplastic processes through which the brain forms and maintains connections. The human research is striking. Studies following older adults over periods of months to years have found that regular blueberry consumption is associated with measurably better performance on tests of memory, processing speed, and executive function compared to control groups. One widely cited clinical trial found that daily blueberry supplementation in adults with mild cognitive impairment produced improvements in memory recall and reduced symptoms of depression. The effect sizes are not dramatic, but they are real, consistent, and accumulate over time. Beyond the brain, blueberries deliver meaningful cardiovascular protection. They improve endothelial function, the health and responsiveness of the cellular lining of blood vessels, reduce arterial stiffness, and lower both systolic blood pressure and markers of systemic inflammation in older adults. Their glycemic index is remarkably low for a fruit, sitting around 53, meaning they deliver their extraordinary nutritional payload without significant blood sugar disruption. Their fiber content moderates absorption further. 1 cup of blueberries per day, fresh or frozen immediately after harvest to preserve polyphenol content, represents one of the highest value, most evidence-backed food habits available to anyone over 60. They can be eaten with breakfast, stirred into yogurt, blended into smoothies with leafy greens, or simply eaten as they are. Their convenience matches their efficacy. Fruit number 2, avocado, the fruit that rewrites the fat conversation. Many people don't think of avocado as a fruit at all. It lacks the sweetness associated with the category, and its culinary role is more often savory than not. But botanically, it is a fruit, and nutritionally, it may be the most comprehensively beneficial one available to older adults. The foundation of avocado's value is its fat profile. Roughly 70% of its fat content is oleic acid, the same monounsaturated fat that makes extra virgin olive oil one of the most studied and validated longevity foods in nutritional science. Oleic acid is metabolically stable, anti-inflammatory, and beneficial for cardiovascular health in ways that have been documented across decades of research. It also significantly improves the bioavailability of fat-soluble nutrients, meaning that eating avocado with other vegetables dramatically increases how much of their carotenoids, vitamin K, and vitamin E your body actually absorbs. Avocados provide an exceptional potassium to sodium ratio. A single avocado contains more potassium than a medium banana, roughly 975 milligrams, in a form accompanied by the fiber, fat, and cofactors that moderate its absorption and support its beneficial effect on blood pressure regulation. For older adults managing hypertension, potassium is one of the most clinically meaningful dietary levers available, and avocado delivers it in an extraordinarily complete nutritional package. The fiber content of avocado deserves specific mention. With approximately 10 grams per fruit, avocado is one of the highest fiber whole foods available, and that fiber is a mix of soluble and insoluble forms that support both microbiome health and bowel regularity, 2 areas of increasing concern after 60. The soluble fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, which in turn reduce gut inflammation, support immune function, and appear to have protective effects on the colon. Half an avocado daily, in a salad, spread on whole grain toast, or eaten simply with a squeeze of lemon, provides a nutritional return on investment that very few other foods can match. Fruit number 3. Pomegranate, the cardiovascular and joint protector. Pomegranate has been used medicinally for thousands of years across dozens of cultures, and modern research has spent the past 2 decades attempting to validate or refute those ancient claims. The findings have, in many cases, been genuinely impressive. The most distinctive compounds in pomegranate are punicalagins, large polyphenol, molecules found in the juice and peel that are metabolized by gut bacteria into a compound called urolithin A. Urolithin A has received growing scientific attention because of its apparent ability to stimulate mitophagy, the cellular process by which aging, dysfunctional mitochondria are identified, broken down, and replaced. Mitochondrial decline is one of the hallmarks of cellular aging, and its consequences, reduced energy production, increased oxidative stress, impaired cellular signaling, affect virtually every tissue in the aging body. A compound that supports the clearance of damaged mitochondria and the biogenesis of new ones is, from a longevity science perspective, extraordinarily significant. Pomegranate also carries one of the most robust evidence bases of any food for cardiovascular protection in older adults. Multiple clinical trials have found that regular pomegranate juice consumption reduces carotid artery intima media thickness, a direct measure of atherosclerotic plaque buildup in hypertensive patients. Other studies have found meaningful reductions in systolic blood pressure, reductions in LDL oxidation, and improvements in arterial compliance. The mechanisms involve both direct antioxidant effects and specific inhibition of an enzyme called angiotensin-converting enzyme, the same enzyme targeted by a class of blood pressure medications. For older adults managing arthritis, one of the most prevalent conditions in this age group, pomegranate extract has shown promise in clinical studies for reducing the inflammatory markers associated with joint degradation. Its anti-inflammatory properties appear to inhibit the same molecular pathways that drive cartilage breakdown in osteoarthritis. A small glass of pure pomegranate juice, no added sugar, or the seeds eaten fresh several times per week provides meaningful benefit. The seeds are also an excellent addition to salads, providing crunch, color, and flavor alongside their nutritional value. Fruit number 4, kiwi, the sleep, immunity, and digestion triple threat. Kiwi is one of the most underestimated fruits in nutritional conversations about aging, and the research around it has produced some genuinely surprising findings. Begin with vitamin C. Gram for gram, kiwi contains more vitamin C than an orange. A single medium kiwi provides roughly 100% of the recommended daily intake. For older adults, vitamin C is not simply an immune nutrient. It is a critical cofactor in collagen synthesis, which is essential for maintaining the structural integrity of skin, joint cartilage, blood vessel walls, and the cornea. As collagen production naturally declines with age, adequate vitamin C intake becomes one of the most accessible ways to support its maintenance. Kiwi is one of the very few fruits with a meaningful vitamin K content, specifically vitamin K1, which plays a foundational role in bone metabolism and vascular health. Kiwi is also a natural digestive enzyme source, containing actinidin, a protease that assists in the breakdown of dietary proteins. For older adults whose stomach acid production and digestive enzyme output has naturally declined, this makes kiwi a practically useful addition to protein-rich meals. 2 kiwis per day, eaten with skin on if tolerated, as the skin contains concentrated fiber and additional polyphenols, represents a remarkably comprehensive nutritional investment for their size and cost. Fruit number 5, tart cherries, nature's anti-inflammatory and recovery food. Tart cherries, also called sour cherries or Montmorency cherries, are distinct from the sweet cherries most commonly found in produce sections and occupy a different nutritional category entirely. Their most well-documented property is anti-inflammatory. Tart cherries contain extraordinarily high concentrations of anthocyanins and other polyphenols that inhibit cyclooxygenase enzymes, the same enzymatic targets as ibuprofen and aspirin. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have found meaningful reductions in circulating inflammatory markers in adults who consume tart cherry juice or concentrate regularly. For older adults managing chronic musculoskeletal pain, post-exercise soreness, or the daily inflammatory burden of conditions like gout, tart cherry juice has accumulated one of the most convincing evidence bases of any food-based anti-inflammatory intervention. Tart cherries are one of the very few food sources of melatonin, the hormone that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. Age-related decline in melatonin production is one of the primary drivers of the sleep disruption so common after 60. While the melatonin content of tart cherries is modest relative to pharmacological doses, Multiple clinical studies have found that regular tart cherry juice consumption improves both sleep duration and sleep efficiency in older adults. The synergy between the melatonin content and the anti-inflammatory compounds appears to produce sleep benefits that neither component alone fully explains. Understanding which fruits serve your body after 60 and which ones warrant caution is valuable, but only if it translates into something actionable and sustainable in the rhythms of daily life. So let me offer a framework that is practical rather than prescriptive. The most important principle is context. Almost no fruit is categorically harmful or categorically beneficial in isolation. What determines how your body responds is the full context of how and when you eat it. What else is on the plate? The time of day, your current metabolic state, and how that fruit fits into your overall dietary pattern. Pairing matters enormously. Any fruit consumed alongside protein, Greek yogurt, a handful of nuts, eggs, cottage cheese, produces a meaningfully different blood sugar response than the same fruit eaten alone. The protein slows gastric emptying, moderates glucose absorption, and reduces the glycemic peak that would otherwise trigger a larger insulin response. Make protein pairing a consistent habit with your fruit consumption. Timing matters. The morning, when insulin sensitivity tends to be higher and the body is primed to use glucose efficiently, is generally the most metabolically favorable time to consume higher sugar fruits. Late evening, when insulin sensitivity is lower and the body is preparing for a fasting state, favors lower glycemic fruits, berries, kiwi, tart cherries, if fruit is being consumed at all. Frozen fruit is not a compromise. This cannot be said often enough. Commercially frozen fruit is typically processed within hours of harvest, before the nutrient degradation that occurs during transportation, extended storage, and the time fresh fruit spends on a shelf. Studies have found that frozen berries and cherries often retain higher antioxidant content than fresh fruit that has spent days in transit and cold storage. For older adults on fixed incomes or without reliable access to fresh produce, frozen fruit is a fully legitimate nutritional choice. Don't let perfection be the enemy of progress. The goal is not to optimize every food choice with clinical precision. The goal is to build a consistent daily pattern that over weeks and months and years shifts your body's biological environment in a favorable direction. A bowl of blueberries with breakfast most mornings, half an avocado in a salad several times a week, a glass of tart cherry juice before bed. These are achievable, enjoyable habits that accumulate into something meaningful. If you are managing diabetes, kidney disease, cardiovascular disease, or are taking regular prescription medications, please discuss specific fruit choices with your physician or a registered dietitian before making significant changes. The guidance in today's video is grounded in solid science and intended to inform, but your individual medical history matters, and personalized guidance will always be more valuable than general advice. I want to close with a thought that I hope stays with you. The conversation around food and aging is often framed as a series of restrictions. Things to stop doing, things to give up, pleasures to sacrifice in the name of longevity. I have never found that framing either accurate or useful. What the science of aging actually tells us is something more interesting. It tells us that the body, even in its 7th, 8th, and 9th decades, retains a remarkable capacity to respond to the conditions we create for it. That inflammation can be reduced, that oxidative burden can be lightened, that the cellular repair processes that maintain tissue health can be supported and amplified, or neglected and undermined, by the choices we make every single day at the table. Fruit is part of that story, not all of it, but a meaningful part. The 5 fruits we discussed that deserve more caution aren't your enemies. They're simply foods that interact with the 60-plus body in ways worth understanding. And the 5 that belong in your daily life aren't miracle cures. They're consistent, evidence-backed allies in the slow, cumulative work of aging with vitality rather than simply aging. Small changes, made with knowledge and sustained with consistency, compound over time into outcomes that look, from the outside, like exceptional aging. They are almost never exceptional luck. They are almost always intentional choices, made quietly, repeatedly, over years. That is entirely within your reach. Take good care of yourself. Talk to your doctor. And remember that every nourishing choice you make is not a sacrifice. It is an investment in the years ahead and in the quality of the life you intend to live inside them. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and never stop learning about the extraordinary body you live in.